today with Bryan Eisenberg, New York Times bestseller, analytics expert, and co-founder of IdealSpot.
How you doing?
Pretty good. So tell us a little bit about IdealSpot and where your inspiration behind it came from.
Sure. So IdealSpot came from the inspiration that, having worked in online media for the last 20 years and helping retailers improve their business using data, that I started looking, what is it that traditional retailers are kind of like taking for granted that they don't have in the everyday. And obviously, location is targeting, right? It's where are the right customers? And when we realized and started looking at what other people were doing in terms of picking out locations, we realized that a big part of what they were doing was using models that were mostly 40 years old. If they were using anything, a lot of the tools out there are pretty expensive. Maybe they were using some very basic demographics, but there's so much more data on top of that, and we wanted to make it democratized and real-time data, so it's not 10-year-old census data, so that we really can help retailers and service businesses find the right locations to address their customers' interest and demand.
How do y'all do what you guys do?
It's actually way harder than we even anticipated. Let's start there. You basically go direct to IdealSpot, you create an account, you tell us a little bit about your business, we identify the business category, we can start identifying some of your competitors, and we start creating your own personalized map. From there, you have access to all the free demographics, right? You can start there. We have about 15 or so that are used by about 85% of the companies out there, age and income, education, daytime traffic, that kind of stuff. You can start modeling what the different locations, what the different neighborhoods look like, and we can highlight to you where are the densest areas for those demographics that you're interested in. Then from there, we have additional information, right? We can start bringing in social media interest. People are expressing interest in, organic foods. People, who are looking for, wings near me, right? And so we can start pulling in that search information as well, the demand side of it. And then, of course, we can start bringing in things like traffic data from some of the top providers out there. We're bringing in more and more data sources. There are thousands of variables for every physical longitude and latitude out there in this world. It's interesting. We're definitely seeing some changing patterns in the way people are shopping and where they're moving to and how they're moving. And so I think the IdealSpot system is basically using a machine learning algorithm. And as we learn about your business and each of the locations and how they're performing, the algorithm adapts and it starts pulling in all the data. So our algorithm is looking at something like over 15,000 variables. And so it's finding patterns that no one has looked at beforehand. So, for example, we had a friend of ours, what inspired part of the business, a friend of ours here in town, was part of a chain of restaurants here in Texas and in Florida. They eventually went bankrupt. And the main reason is they picked up a location up a little further north from here. The demographics looked great, high-income families, big families. They were opened up in a very busy shopping center next to an H-E-B. So you expected that they would survive, and they were next to a Torchy's Taco, which is packed through the doors at all times.
Yeah.
That restaurant ended up doing less than 20% of expected sales. And so it was obvious to us once we looked at the social interest map, there's no interest in their category of food whatsoever. And once we realized that, we could start seeing the patterns of migration over time as well. It was obvious that was a bad location for them, right? And it wouldn't have been so in any other formula.
So it would be safe to say that y'all are the most in-depth option for people looking for data-driven location.
I wouldn't even say in-depth because, there are very expensive consultants out there that will go ahead and they'll map all your customers' credit card history and start doing all that. So, there's this really intense side of it. But I think we're most accessible. We're a very affordable option. We are best of class. We've already have, some of the top brands coming to us and saying, wow, you're doing things that I haven't seen done before. And we're really trying to not make it so that you have to be an analyst, right? Because nobody wants to look and pour through numbers, but that we're answering questions for you. In other words, so you can look at something and say, now I can see why this is a better spot than that one.
Have you found companies using your demographics and information for anything pretty unique outside of location?
know, we've had some people doing some very interesting things with it, but I think one of the most unique cases we've had is there was a developer who has been targeting like Home Depot. You know, they have these huge parking lots where a lot of it's underserved. They're not ever filling them up.
Yeah.
And they're figuring out, based on all the other businesses that are in the area, what would work best in that parking lot.
Okay.
And kind of reverse engineering what we're doing, which is where we want to go, right? Because it's not just for the retailer or the service business, but also for the developers. But they're already hacking it to do that, and it's kind of really cool to see how they've done it.
That's neat. So is that y'all's next step, is to try to create the other side of it?
It's one of the next steps. There's a lot to do to make this as seamless as possible for everybody out there. You know, I think the fun part is, you know, we're in the middle of a pricing change. We're adding a whole bunch of new features, and it's an ongoing process. You know, we don't want to stop, because we know that there's always new data sources, more information, new ways to present information to make it easier for people. So, you know, come on by. We've got some other ideas for people who are who have their brick and mortar locations, who just need information every day, even if they're not moving, right? There's a whole bunch of questions we can start answering for them as well. And so it's a passion for us, because I think there's the next trend evolution. While everyone wants to talk about how big e-commerce is, I think the real opportunity still is in brick and mortar. Over 85% of purchases are still happening in stores that people are walking into. And, you know, as we're sitting here, you know, on the second floor of a Whole Foods overlooking a parking lot, you know, we're just watching people walk in and out.
Yeah.
You know, there's a whole bunch of shopping around here. People want to shop. People want to touch and feel. And so we just need to give retailers the same kind of tools and thinking that the online shops have had all these years.
That's actually really eye-opening, and I know I've been looking. A lot of online stores are starting to open brick and mortar locations in areas I know they're doing a lot of stuff. So that's cool that you're doing the reverse engineering.
And we actually have been contacted by some of those marquee brands that you hear opening up stores. It's not Amazon, which is really fascinating as well. They've got a lot of their own data as well, but some of the other big brands that people would know of in the online space who are now starting to open up their first stores, we're already starting to work with them, because again, you know, they want people to understand their language. They're, you know, who look at it from the world of view, that digital footprint of that digital customer. Because at the end of the day, it's just customers, right? We leave so much information about who we are and what we're interested in online. You know, it's just an example, right? Facebook data, right? We did a little experiment in-house just to look at where the political candidates were in Austin, what neighborhoods were interested in what. And, you know, Austin is a town of about 1.9 million people. And when you consider, obviously, a lot of those are families, right? A lot of kids in town. We're like one of the fastest growing, cities for kids as well. We were able to get data on 1.3 million individuals inside Austin. So when you consider that, I mean, that's virtually everybody, minus the younger kids who are not on the platform. Okay, and the teenagers who are on Instagram are also feeding it data. So that beast has tons of data and stuff that everybody should be using in all of their marketing efforts.
There's a lot of small businesses out there, more than big businesses. And you said y'all are an affordable option. Was that part of y'all's business plan from the beginning, is to get the underdogs a little bit of an advantage? That
was it. You know what? The companies that are using the big solutions out there, the big companies, the big consultants, you know, the solutions start from like $100,000 a year. and so, you know, that isn't an option for most businesses. And so what we wanted to do is democratize the data. It's like, you know what, the demographic data we've actually made completely free. I mean, there's some solutions out there you can pay a little bit for, you know, a few $100 a month. We said, you know what, that's table stakes. Everybody needs to have that. We're just going to make that available for free. They don't need all the data, and this is really more data on demand. So when they pick their locations, we can kind of give them a quick answer, and you know, they're there. We are looking at the, you know, hundreds of dollars or you know, a couple $1,000s, depending on how many locations you have, to grow this. So it's really like, you know, the cost of making one wrong decision is a lot more, but yeah, we're trying to make it accessible to everybody.
All right, so if you're interested in finding more about IdealSpot, you can go to IdealSpot.com, and I'll put the link down below. And Bryan and Jeffrey Eisenberg it's your brother. They founded it. So check out their website. I'll add a link, and y'all have Twitter, Facebook, all the
all the
good
usuals.
Stuff. I will put all that down there at the bottom. So go ahead and follow them and check us out next week.